What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Next Man Up podcast, and I'm here with special guest Berkley Edwards and with your host Hero. And today we're gonna just talk about Berkley Edwards, his career, how he's doing right now, and how he was his football career. All right, so question to ask, how did you get into like doing what you're doing right now and like sports in general?
All right. Well, appreciate you having me. First off, glad to be here. So how I got started off in sports, was I just come from a sports background. My family, was sports oriented. I have older siblings, cousins, uncles, all of that. They've all done sports. So it was just only right that I followed suit. Um, I started, and I can tell you, I started out. My first sport was track, and it was track just because my father has his own AAU team. Yeah, my dad's had his own AAU team. I think for now, I think it's 95, so it's been 30 years now. It's 30 years this August actually, which is crazy. Um, so that was my first sport, but the first sport outside of I think what anybody else did was soccer. And I didn't really like it. I just was out there for, probably all of an hour and then I wanted to leave. So from there, it went to what else? I think my dad wanted me to try baseball or T-ball. I think at the time that's what it was. Uh, didn't like it. It was real slow. And then from there, he didn't let me play football until I was 10.
Hmm.
And a lot of people that I played with, they played pee wee ball and all of that. And I think one year I played 7-on-7 or in a little bit of tackle. I think at the time they had the foam helmets. That's a long, long, long time ago. So they had the foam helmets. But then after that, I hadn't played until I was 10. I want to say I was probably 8 at the time, probably 7 or 8. And it wasn't too serious, right? It was just more of, you know, being able to follow directions and making friends out there. That's pretty much what it was. So once 10 came, that's when real football, helmets, pads, all of that. And, we did tackling drills and everything. So uh, once that started, I didn't like it at first. Being out there for the first time and they had me at linebacker and running back, but linebacker doing tackling drills and stuff. Again, like I said, all the people that I played with were, most of them had already played football. They came from Pee Wee up, and that was 10 for me was junior varsity, so it was JV. And I was out there for the first time. I just knew how to run fast, but tackling was that wasn't good for me.
Yeah.
So I was out there getting ran over. It was just bad. Hanging on for dear life. But then once they gave me the football, I did my thing. Couldn't nobody catch me. And at the time, that year, which was 2005, I was one of the fastest at that age group. I was one of the fastest guys in America. So, once you gave me the football, I made it happen. Um, and so yeah, that's how I got started. And then, it led to later on in life, it continued. Thank God I didn't quit because I did want to, when I first
Yeah.
started. But, thank God I didn't because it ended up working out. And I went to high school and from there played on to college. And then from college played 1 year in the indoor league.
Yeah, so you basically like you come from a sports family. Most of them played football. Like like was it it's like was it always like your desire to play football and just to like be like your siblings or your cousins or your dad or anything?
So when I first played football, it was because everybody else did it. But I didn't really, and it was always football was always on in the house and stuff like that. And so that's why I started. And I didn't really think of anything else. I just said, this is what everybody else does. And not just even in my family, but also to all my friends as well. Football is a real popular sport. And at some point in time, most people who do sports, at least, men, most most people who do it, they play football at least 1 year, right?
Yeah.
Because it's just a very popular sport. So I think that was another reason why I did it too. Um, and then from there, it carried on to, hey, you have to create your own identity, do your own thing, if you want to continue to play this sport. So yeah, I got into it um, for two reasons. One, obviously my family did it, but also two, that's what everybody else did too.
Yeah. So when high school came, like how was that like for football and everything?
So I ended up going to a high school in a city that I never even heard of growing up. Not until, it was around the time that it was, time for me to go to high school. So that was in Chelsea. That was at Chelsea, which is in Chelsea, Michigan. I was in Inkster schools at the time. And so it was a complete transformation for me. And I went there just because they had a good football program. I mean, anywhere I went because I wanted to go, to a higher level past
Yeah.
high school, it was going to be football oriented, right? That was going to be the main focus. Um, and so I had a few different choices at the time. It was Inkster High School, UAD, Jesuit, um, Divine Child, Ann Arbor Pioneer, and then Chelsea, which was the other one. And I ended up going to Chelsea because I didn't want to go to all boys school, and I was tired of wearing uniform all the time. Because back in the day we still had to wear uniform, so I was tired of
Yeah.
wearing uniform. So I said, fine, I'm gonna go to Chelsea, and I had a guy that I knew, and actually I was one of the best men in his wedding a couple years back. He was the guy there, and one of the best guys in the state is Nick Hill. He was one of the best players in the state coming out, and he was a running back. And so going there, he said, "Hey, you come here, I'll show you the way, show you how to navigate the process, and you'll be taken care of." So that's ultimately why I went there. I knew one person at the time that was at that school, but other than that, it was me just going in blind. I didn't really, know anybody else. Um, and then two, it was just a city again that I had never heard of. And we didn't even live there, so we ended up using a vacant house address at the time
Oh.
just to be able to go. So yeah, we were driving out there every day just to get me, to and from school. So when I first got there, it was like again, it was different. I was only one of the not even just black kids, but just minority in general at the school. Uh, so I didn't really talk to too many people. They embraced me, but again, it was just different. And throughout my high school career, I ended up getting used to it and just going and just navigating the process, the best that I could. But at the end of the day, it was all football focused.
Hmm.
The school was good as far as academics goes as well, but for me, it was all about
Yeah.
football.
Ball.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So how was recruitment like when high school when you played football? Like, was there like any challenge or like how was that like?
So again, going to the school, they had people getting recruited at the school. It wasn't a super heavy recruitment school, but as far as football goes, but you did have people go, whether it was D1, D2, or D3. People did go to play at the next level. Um, and because I was the featured player, uh, sophomore is kind of when I started playing a lot. Freshman, I was kind of playing around. I wasn't learning the plays like I should have because I was on varsity, but they put me at a position where we ran the wing T offense. So they put me in a position where I was one of the wings. So I had to know run at the time. I had to know running, blocking, and the route concept. So for me, that was just a lot. Being
Yeah.
young and everything. So they put me down. They stuck me down on JV. And then I was the main guy, the main featured guy in the backfield that was running the ball, so I would get majority of the carries. And then after that, they moved me back up to varsity for playoffs. And then I didn't really get any play time. Uh, it was just more of me getting back on varsity and giving them a good look for getting ready for playoffs on scout team.
Yeah.
Sophomore year comes, I split time with a senior there. And then junior year was really when I was just the main guy.
Yeah.
I was the main guy. I started getting looked at my sophomore year, but junior year was, really, really when it was my show. And they gave me the ball. I probably averaged 30 carries a game.
That's
And
really
so,
good.
yeah. Most running backs don't get that type of love
Yeah.
now. Uh, And so, but from that, yeah, recruitment was okay. Started off slow with all the MAC schools and everything, and then from there built out to the larger schools. I think I had in, if I can remember correctly, I think I had in the teens as far as offer goes. Um, my large offers were Cal, Berkeley, Iowa, University of Minnesota, um, and then two, going to other. I remember going to a lot of other camps, and they had heard of me, but it was like, yeah, we thought, you're going to Michigan, so there's no reason for us to offer you. And obviously that wasn't the case because I ended up going to Minnesota. That's where I ended up committing. But the recruitment process was good. I would say I had more than normal as far as, the normal high school player,
Yeah.
but it was also hard at the same time, right? Because I wanted a lot more offers than I
Hmm.
had to have more choices. But it is what it is. I think it ended up playing out well for me.
Yeah. So you committed to Minnesota, right?
Yep, yep,
And
yep,
then
yep.
then you transferred to Michigan, as I know of.
Yeah, so I committed to Minnesota, did 2013 to 2015 there, and then I ended up transferring to Central Michigan.
Oh, Central
Um,
Michigan.
and so yeah, I transferred before there was a transfer portal or anything
Mm.
like that. So how it ended up going was when you transfer, you usually have to sit out a year unless you have a great case, whether it's for medical or family, whatever. If it's family hardships or someone's sick, you need to help take care of somebody. That's you can get that year granted, or you don't have to sit out that year. Um, and so what happened was I ended up leaving Minnesota, transferred over to Central. Now I had to sit out the year that I got there, but then they ended up granting that year back to me once I appealed that situation and let them know what was going on internally with the family, and then they granted me that year on the back end. So because I got that year on the back end, I did my graduate year at the University of Michigan in
Mm.
2018.
I was do you have any like memorable moments when you were in college playing?
Um, yeah, there was a lot actually. Some of them I won't share just because it doesn't need to go on camera. But as far as just the football field, yeah, I think scoring my first touchdown was really big for me. But
Yeah.
also too, just going that was really big. But also just being out on the field, for the first time, when the crowd is there as a freshman, it really your eyes get wide and you get really nervous. I remember my first game and they had me out there, split out as a receiver. And I was nervous. I was nervous as hell. And I remember it was wet that day, but I remember dropping the ball. And then they ended up coming back to me. I think that next series they put me in. I caught the ball. I think I gained like 2 yards or something. And then from there, I got some clock in at the end of the game. But yeah, I do remember that first game, uh, getting in the first time, scoring, and then getting interviewed after the game, and then actually was just crazy after the game. Just going out to eat with my parents and friends
Yeah.
who came to that first game. Being in that restaurant and they have my face all over the TV and stuff for the post game interview, and I'm sitting next to people and they said, "Oh, that's you," and congrats and good job and doing all that stuff too that comes with doing good on the field. So I
Yeah.
think that was really my I guess my greatest, I don't want to say yeah, I guess greatest experience and memorable thoughts just
Yeah.
being in college. Yeah.
Well, yeah, well, also being in college, like playing running back in Minnesota, like what were like some challenges there that you had to face, like going into like let's say like academic wises and like even playing on the field and like getting like that starting job.
Yeah. So academic wise, I wasn't very great in school. But I ended up, which was crazy actually. I never was near being ineligible in college. And I kind of tell, which we can talk about later, in a little bit about what I do now. But I personal train, but we can get back to that in a second. But I
Yeah.
tell my athletes, I said, and everybody else, you almost have to try to fail. because they give you so many, avenues to be able to succeed, whether it's tutors, extra time with the professor and stuff like that to be able to get your grades up and everything like that. You almost have to try to fail. So even though I wasn't really good at school, school was hard, but it wasn't anywhere near where it was like, okay, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to play this week, because my grades aren't good. So there wasn't really too much challenges. There were times where, I was staying up late, falling asleep with my head, my face in the book and stuff like that. But I mean, that comes with, being a college athlete.
Yeah.
Uh, and that also comes probably, with being a just a student as well, right? There's gonna be
Hmm.
some times where you have to stay up late and get stuff done. It is what it is. But with football, getting there, I played early, but then too, I ended up getting hurt my freshman year. That was a big challenge for me. I almost broke my leg
Oh,
in practice. Somebody fell on my leg, and we weren't even supposed to be tackling. Somebody fell on my leg. Um, and so that was a big challenge for me navigating that because I never gotten hurt to the point where I couldn't play that next week or a season. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Because I always prepared, very hard and make sure that I took care of my body. So that was a really big thing for me, and I was probably ready around week 6, and they thought about playing me then. We were traveling to the big house in Michigan, and they were thinking about playing me, but they said, "Look, we'll give you your year. Take it, continue to learn the offense. Just give us a good look, and we'll
Yeah.
come next year. Make sure you're healthy and ready to play." So that was a big challenge for me, and then after that, uh, I had to play against some guys that, I had to play with some guys that were very good. And as in David Cobb, he was the starter. If you go back and look, he was the number 6 running back in the nation at the time.
Mm.
That I was playing. I playing behind and with him as well because they put me on the field too.
Yeah.
But that was a great challenge. That was a great challenge, and you know, playing beside him, but also, trying to get more play time as well because he was very good. He was very good, and we also had other running backs that were really good as well.
Yeah.
Um, so it was just a challenge of getting better, learning how to navigate through different challenges that arise with football, and just competing.
Yeah. So about, yeah, like even talking about the games, like going into games, how did you like mentally prepare or like physically prepare yourself for like certain games that like came up?
So for me, and our offense was pretty simple. They didn't. It wasn't really too complicated. So that made it pretty easy. And we were a run heavy offense, just because we had some good receivers. We had some, a couple receivers go to the league and also get a try at the league. So we had some players, but we were a run heavy offense, and leaning on our running back room was something that they cherished. We got the most production out of off the on the offense. And that's what Minnesota's known for is running the ball too, because we had some good running backs come out of the
Yeah.
University of Minnesota. So preparing, it was fairly simple. Again, is the big thing was just getting the reps during practice and being confident and knowing that you did everything you could to prepare during the week. That was going to lead to great success. Getting during game time, all your preparation is done during the week, and then then you're gonna do what you're gonna do, preparing for the week in the game. There's a great saying, or not a great saying, but there's a often saying that coaches use: you gonna practice how you play. So if you practice good, then you're gonna play well.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
is true. Um, well, you played at Minnesota, then you transferred to Central, and then you also played at Michigan in 2018, you said?
hmm
Yeah, so like that Michigan year, like how was that? I mean, you guys were pretty good that year as well, weren't
Yep.
you? Yeah.
So it was actually crazy. I went back and looked at that year. I was talking to my dad about some other stuff that was going on. I think we were trying to figure out if I had played with a certain person there. Um, and so I went back and looked at that year, and we had 3 losses, and we were this close. We were this close to making the playoffs. And I didn't realize how close we was until I just looked at it. Had we won our season opener against Notre Dame, we would have been in the playoffs. And that's how tight that stuff is. You
Yeah.
can't lose too many games. I think they're expanding the playoffs now, but
Yeah, they
before
have.
I think before it was four slots, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
it was 4 slots, now it's 12.
yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? So now it's 12, but yeah, you have four slots, and if you're losing, you can't get in.
Yeah, it's
You can't.
difficult.
Yeah, it is difficult. They may make some exceptions for Alabama or something, but for the most part, yeah, for the most part, is very difficult. So we ended up losing our season opener, man, and that killed us.
Yeah, that's tough.
But yeah. But playing there, it was cool. I knew Michigan before I got there, just because I was always up there because my dad played up there,
Yeah.
my brother played up there, and my uncle played up there as well. And I just had some family members that went there, for school.
Yeah.
And then, so I was always around. I knew the campus and everything, but it was a little different for me being there, being in the pads, and the helmet and everything. It was cool. I think at that point, my point in time, I was, older. So when I got there, it was just all business for me. Business and then obviously having fun on the field. There was a couple guys that I knew there. But I just came to compete every day in practice, and for me, it was just about getting better.
Yeah.
And then it obviously being in the biggest stadium, playing in the biggest stadium, in the country and everything. That was cool, for the first game. But after a while, you kind of you get over that, right? And
Hmm.
you gotta get to the task at hand, which is winning the game and competing in the game and finishing the jobs that you have to do.
Yeah. So like after playing at Michigan and after your whole college career, you played indoor, right?
Yeah, it was a league that's not even existing anymore, but it was
Mm.
called the fan control football.
Yeah, how was that? Like, I was playing there for a year.
It was cool. So after after college, I was still training to see if I could play anywhere. I was going to some different camps, and then 2020, so that was 2000, so 2018 was my season. And then 2019 was my pro day that I had. And then I did the Lions local pro day. And
Mm.
then that was pretty much the only thing that I had with any NFL teams. And then later that year, I had some workouts set up for a couple NFL teams. But then that's when COVID started.
Mhm.
Uh, I think it was 2019 to 2020. And then COVID, it was really big. It was something new. It was going crazy. And so what ended up happening was, if you weren't already circulating within the NFL, and or you were going to be a draft pick, they weren't bringing anybody in. That's
Mm.
pretty much what it was. You know what I mean? They weren't
Yeah.
bringing anybody in, so it was those workouts ended up getting canceled. And then from there, I just never ended up having the opportunity. So I ended up going to this new league started. I had a coach reach out to me. Um, he said, "Hey, I want you to come to this workout that we have in. I want to say it was Houston. This workout that they had in Houston. I didn't know anything about the league. I just knew that it was another opportunity for me to play football and then get some recent film. Um, so I went, killed the workout, and then from there, they told me that they wanted me to be on the team. And looking back on it now, there were a few guys that were pretty good. I actually played with who's in the league now, Cavante Turpin,
Mm.
who plays for. I think he's still with Dallas.
Yeah, he's still with Dallas.
Yeah, he was in that league. And then there was a couple guys that got a try at the league, but then there was a couple guys that were also in the UFL or USFL,
Yeah.
and then the XFL too. And then some other guys that still play indoor football. Uh, and I think some guys are still in the USFL and the XFL as well. So there, because it was a new league, there were a lot of good players that we played with. They ended up getting some tries at, and some clock in some other leagues. And then obviously, like I said, Cavante is in the league right now currently.
Yeah.
So that, it was cool. Like I said, it was just a opportunity for me to be able to play football again and just get some some updated film on me.
Yeah. So after that league, like, did you know what you wanted to do after? Like, did you know you always knew you wanted to be like a personal trainer for like for a sports athlete? We can get into that right now.
Yeah, yeah. So um that was something that I had started actually back in college.
Mm,
So I always was the one to ask questions, just about whatever it was, anything. I was always asking questions. So, I always wanted to be able to, you know, put myself in the best position to win in
yeah.
sports. So I would always ask, whether it's massage therapists, chiropractors, trainers on the team, how did you learn this technique, or where did you go to school, what were the things that you guys were taught in school, and I ended up applying that to myself. And then from there, my dad being my coach growing up, I took things from him as well. So it got to a point where he didn't even need to train me. So once I came back home from college, whether it was in the winter, or summer break, I would post, that I was, back home training and everything. And then I would get some friends, whether they were from other schools, or in different sports as well. I would train them. They would say, "Hey, can I come train with you?" And so, I ended up training them, and they would end up going back to school and say, "Hey, whatever, the stuff that you put me through, it really helped." And then, I'm coming back, I'm dominating the workouts, or it's not as hard as the stuff that we did. And it actually helped. So after I was done in 2018 in Michigan, I continued that because, I was a college student and I needed some money. So that was the first thing that I knew what to do. I said, "Hey, I need to start making some money." So I continued with that. Then in 2021, I went to the indoor league. And then once I got done with that, it continued, and I came right back, and continued with the players that I was training before, but also too, it's grown to what it is now. Um, I'm in the gym in Livonia. I was training out of my garage for those, for all those years, 660 square foot garage, but still, producing guys, helping them get to the league. At one point, it was, 7 guys in the league. I got one guy that declared for the NBA draft. I helped train an Olympian and 30 plus D1 athletes. And I think some more kids, some more people as well. Conference champions, in track.
Yeah.
And now, helping produce volleyball players and, soccer players and hockey players and baseball players too. Um, so it's grown to the garage from now. I'm in the gym, and just continuing to grow and help people being able to achieve the dreams that they want.
Yeah. Where are you located exactly?
So it's Livonia, Michigan. It's, I would say, 696. I'm sorry, 96 in Farmington Road.
Mm. Oh, okay.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. So it's a warehouse in there. It's 2,500 square foot gym. It's good space and we get great work in.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
Um, so like what's advice for like what are some advice you would give to like a high school athlete or someone playing at like the highest level of college right now? Like what would you say to them right now as like a PT right now?
Always look for new information, and doing that allows you, because the information is out there and the access to information now is ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
You can get on YouTube. You can get access to these guys who've been doing, whether it's sports training or other athletes that's been doing this stuff for years, right? And you have to be, it's hard because you may not know, but you have to be smart about, who you're watching and what kind of information you're intaking, because a lot of these people lie. They lie, but also too, there's just information that there's better information out there, right?
Yeah.
So you just have to be able to decipher the good information from the bad information. But also too, don't underestimate repetition. And what I mean by that is continuing to work day in and day out. Getting better at different things, and also continuing to work on yourself. I think people underestimate the power of just repetitions, right? And always being consistent on, working hard and doing the right things, because over time you can be a completely different player. I mean, I changed my game from a track runner playing football, right? Because
Yeah.
that was my first sport, to an actual football player, right? When I first started catching the ball, I was a guy who couldn't catch. I couldn't catch it. I'm
Hmm.
just gonna be keeping it honest with you, right? I was terrible hand-eye coordination to me being able to play in college, um, a receiver, right? And I can be actually a threat to corners, not just linebackers. I can go out there, split out, and actually, run the full route tree.
Yeah.
So, but it was just years and years and years spent of learning, researching, and just repetition of being able to, focus and practicing different stuff, right? Practicing catching, practicing footwork, ladder drills, and then obviously just going one on one with, different people, and just getting better. So I just think the biggest thing is don't underestimate repetitions and being consistent, and focusing and locking in on yourself, because you never know who you can be, uh, you know, a year from now, 2 years, 5 years, 6 years from now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest advice that I could give is repetition and continuing to work on yourself.
Yeah. Um, Now going to like now, like in your future goals, like what are your goals now for like later down your life? Like what are some goals that you have for right now?
Well, continuing to build on this personal training, um, and being able to I feel like all the research that I've done, and not, I mean, it's been a few years, right, but not too long ago, that I just got done playing, and I'm still able to do a lot of the moves and different things to be able to show these kids. It's just getting them the right information. There's a lot of people out there that that are just in it for the money,
Yeah.
and it's just, hey, I don't care what the kid does, or they don't watch what the kid is doing in the gym. They just hand them a sheet of paper and just say, hey, go do this. Whereas for me, it's continuing to be able to give out the right information, and being able to spend time and build these kids up, the best way possible, that I know that I can do, and that I know that other people aren't doing. And then, I'm an entrepreneur, so just investing in different things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, if you could go back and give your like your younger self advice, like what would the advice be?
Um, I don't know, because I worked hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I worked hard. I Because again, I researched, and that's everything that I researched and learned is why I'm so good at what I am now, as
Yeah.
far as being a personal trainer. So it's like I can't tell myself to work even harder, because I worked as hard as I could.
Uh-huh.
I would say maybe just doing more research, maybe on just footwork, maybe, just agility drills. I mean, that's the biggest thing. It's probably just learning agility drills earlier. But now there's an abundance of information out there, like I said, and there wasn't too much of that going on. Back when I was coming up,
Hmm.
you would have maybe one or two guys there, but for the most part, there really wasn't, a dedicated footwork guy,
Yeah.
that most people go, that's out there. That it wasn't footwork special in those people out there. And if they were, they definitely weren't in Michigan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if they were kind of silent, um, or stuff like that. Most of them are when in hot states,
Yeah.
where a lot of athletes go for all season training. So I don't know. I don't really, you know what I mean? I don't really know what I would tell myself, just
Yeah.
because, I worked as hard as I could.
Yeah. Well, going to your back to your like your family roots, you come from a family with like that was really heavy in sports. You
Mhm.
come your older brother, Braylon Edwards, he went at Michigan. He was an all pro there. He will like did like was there any like expectations from you out of your did you feel like any like pressure from your family like oh like I need to be the best and like at everything or like did you kind of like feel like kind of relaxed about things?
Well, it was just internal pressure on myself, that I was putting, just because I always wanted to be the best version of me that I could be. But there's also some competitiveness in there too,
Yeah.
right? I think that's what not just me, but that gets our whole family there is being competitive, right? If you don't have a competitive edge to you, you probably won't make it that far.
Yeah.
And it's not just in football; it's just whatever you're doing in life. So even away from sports, so there was a little bit competitiveness there, but it was more just internal pressure on me, just wanting to be the best version of me that I can be, and just wanting to be good and continue to carry the family name as well.
So, yeah, I mean, you come from Michigan, right?
Mm.
And like, do you keep up with like do you still keep up with like sports in general, like football, basketball? Like, do you still keep up with the with everything or?
So not too much, because once I was done, at that point it's like, hey, I gotta, real life starts at that
Yeah.
point. You know what I mean? So now it's, hey, I don't have time, and I'm a person who I can, when I want to go do something, I'm able to lock all the way in and block out other stuff that's there. So I don't have to watch TV. And still to this day, I don't watch TV like that, as much. So when people ask me, "Oh, did you catch this game? Did you catch this game?" More majority often times than not, I didn't. Because I'm still continuing to work and continuing to build my brand. So um no, I do keep up a little bit. And it was more of, I would just like to see the guys that I played with and
Mhm.
just seeing what they were
Yeah.
doing. Now as far as the kids that I train personally, I will, I'll go to their games because now, I have to see my product, right?
Yeah.
We spent all the off you spent all the off season putting the work in, and now I just want to see, my product that, now that's being displayed in my work. So I would keep up with sports that way, mostly with the kids that I'm hands on with. But as far as NFL, college, that's rare. I'll
Yeah.
catch some games. I was at the Michigan game yesterday, but that was for they did an anniversary of my dad's Rose Bowl team
Yeah.
up in Michigan, so I was able to go there. But I'll probably go to maybe one Michigan game a year just because I get free tickets.
Yeah.
So if not twice, it's probably one, and it's usually the old State game or the Michigan State game usually, or maybe a home opener or something like that.
Yeah. I'm just gonna ask you some like quick and fun questions real quick.
Hmm.
So like playing in college, like who's like one of your favorite like teammates you gotta play with?
Oh man, I'm not gonna lie to you. So Minnesota, out of the schools that I went to, Minnesota was my favorite place to be. It felt like a real family. Um, so I'll just say the whole team. I'll just say the whole team. I mean, obviously, I got roommates and people that that I still talk to with today. But I would just say the whole team of Minnesota. I think all of those teammates are fun to be with
Yeah.
and fun to play with.
Um, like what's like probably one of the funniest like locker room moments that you've had?
Uh oh, so seeing a lot of grown men, we ended up having a mouse and that came in the locker room. So seeing a bunch of grown men run, jump, and hide from a mouse and climb on top of lockers and stuff like that was real funny. I think that was probably the funniest thing that happened in the locker room.
Another question, like what's like one of the biggest trash talkers you've had to face like in while playing?
mm, that's a good. We didn't nobody. I think the thing is, it's funny. We were doing the most of the trash talking, which was actually I promise. I promise you. So Minnesota, we did most of the trash talking. Probably, and he didn't even say that much, but it just jumps out to me. Ezekiel Elliott, he talked a little bit. Um, that's that's the only thing. That's probably the only person I can think of. Him. I think we played. Uh, uh, Denzel Ward. I think he may have talked a little bit. And then there was a few players on when we played TCU when they were really really good.
Hmm.
They talked trash too. So it was those couple players, and then a few players on TCU too. I think that talked a lot, but we did majority of the trash talking.
What was your like? What was one of your favorite places to eat at when you were in college?
You said eat at? Oh, we had where did I eat at the most? So we had this Chinese restaurant called Kowloon, which I think I heard has been shut down now in Minnesota. But it was real, real, real good. It was good. We would probably I mean, I know days that I ordered that twice a day. It was that good. I don't know the general chicken, uh to the egg rolls. I mean everything was good. That was good. So probably that place was real good.
Yeah. Um, if you could play any position besides running back, which position would that be?
Um that's a great question. Either more of receiver or probably kicker.
Kicker?
And I say kicker because you don't have to hit anybody, and their practice was easy as hell. I mean, they weren't, especially during tour days, they weren't doing anything. Most of them stayed, in the indoor,
Yeah.
just practice kicking. They was messing around, laughing and playing while we were over there dying and smacking each other in practice. So I would say probably kicker.
What was like one of your favorite NFL players or like mentors growing up?
Um, so it's funny. I really didn't. There, my favorite NFL player growing up is actually played him, but it was Le'Veon Bell.
Hmm.
I liked watching him a lot, uh, and he kind of influenced the me starting to change my game, like I mentioned earlier, as far as the footwork stuff goes,
Hmm.
and having an influence on my game. David Cobb did as well, but Le'Veon was one of those people that I really really looked at a lot, and just tried to add some of the stuff that he did onto my game. So it would be Le'Veon.
Oh, Le'Veon Bell, I mean, he's a great player. I would agree too.
Hmm.
Um, what's like a dream NFL team that you wish you could have suited up for?
It probably the Steelers.
The
Steelers or
Steelers?
the Dolphins. And I think the Steelers was because Mike Tomlin seemed
Hmm.
like a cool coach. Um, and then the Dolphins just because I like that area. So it would have been one of those two.
What is like also like what is like before games, like what was a song that would like get you guys hyped before a game?
Um, what was going on around that time? So Future was like heavy. That was really Future's time. So probably March Madness.
Hmm. March
March
Madness.
Madness would be probably a real good song that yeah, that was Future's era. Like he was I mean, you had Future, Jeezy was still doing his thing. Jay-Z was still a little active too. Dej Loaf was heavy. She was doing her thing then too. Young Thug was heavy then too. So, but it was, that was kind of, I mean, Drake, Lil Wayne, all of that. But Future was probably the most, is like the unanimous decision. I think
Yeah.
that everybody would pick would be Future.
What was like one of the funnest like or like the best stadium that you played in?
Oh, Ohio State.
Ohio State?
Yeah, Ohio
Ooh.
State. That I think so. When we went, I had first played there in Minnesota. So when we went, um, just going through the town and the city, you could just feel the energy. And
Hmm.
people say that, but I really, really, really felt the difference. It was just I don't. if Ohio is a different football. I call Ohio the SEC of the North.
Okay.
But you could just feel the energy there. It was just different, and that was a night game for us too. So it was night, and then yeah. So then you go through the town, and then you pull up to the stadium, and the stadium has that big. It's almost like a coliseum almost.
Yeah.
So then you pull up there, and then you pull around, and you get off. You get off the bus and go into the locker room. But that it was probably Ohio State for me. Uh, it was Ohio State and TCU. TCU was hype. I
Mm.
mean, their fan base was hype. They whooped us too, but they smacked us. But I think their fan base was real engaged into it was a lot of younger. It seems like a younger crowd too. So their fan base was real engaged. They was talking crazy to us, and their the field is right next to the stands. So it's not you can almost touch the players if you were in the stands, you can almost touch the players. So it was right there. It wasn't that much in between. It wasn't that much space in between the audience and the players. So, everything that they said we heard.
Dang,
All this,
that's
yeah, all the talking that they were doing, they could hear. So I would say Ohio State and then TCU right behind
yeah.
that.
Was it like ever did you ever feel like intimidated by it or no?
No, because I always got hyped during those times. And that comes from I had so running track growing up, uh, I ran AAU track. So we got to travel around the country and run against some of the world's best, the world's fastest people and best talent.
Yeah.
There was their offer. So being in that environment where you have, between what 5 and 15 to 20,000 people in the stadium, uh, that was that already had me prepared, for the next level of going into college football. So I would get nervous at times before games, but it wasn't just like, oh man, the crowd is too much. Actually, the crowd always, boosts my I can't even think of the word right now, but it hypes me up.
Yeah.
It always hypes me
Kind of
up. Yeah.
like boosted your confidence a little bit.
Yeah.
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 If you could describe yourself in 3 words, what would it be? What would those 3 words be?
Um Hard worker. So yeah, I'll say yeah. Work hard. That's two. Let me figure out one more. Um Athletic. I'll put athletic. We just put that in there.
If you could thank one person in like for your journey, who would it be and why?
um Definitely my dad. Just because I know how much work. So I know I say I'm athletic, right?
Hmm.
And there's definitely some genes in there, but nobody knows except for him how far I came from when I first started playing sports. And I'm saying him because he was my coach.
Hmm.
Uh, so nobody knows how far I came from when I first started playing sports until the end of my career. Like for example, when I first started running track, I would get beat by girls. Like, they had, we were young, right? So they
Yeah.
had, us running against girls sometimes and stuff like that. And I would get beat by them. So, that's how far I came along. There wasn't just, oh, I hop out on the track or hop out on the football field and, you know, I'm just automatically gonna be the best person.
Yeah.
That was never the case. I always, always, always had to work hard to get where I wanted to be, and on the field, on the track, and off the track as well. So, and again, him being my coach, he would be the person to thank because he was able to get me, to that point, And then, from there, like I said, I was able to take it over, learn from him, and learn from everything else that I was doing, and and ball it all in, and be the person I am today. And now I'm able to give it back to the kids.
Yeah. All right. For the last question, who is like the greatest running back of all time that you think?
Barry.
Barry?
Mm.
Why do you say Barry Sanders?
Um, because he did all of that with a poor line. So it's like, think if he would have had a great line, he wouldn't never got touched. I would just, he
Yeah.
just wouldn't have got touched. Because again, he was doing all of that with not a good line. So think of now, if the hole is open, who's going to really touch him? And he wasn't getting caught from behind either. He wasn't super fast, right? He wasn't like track athlete fast, but he wasn't getting caught from behind, and he was making guys miss, and they were in the backfield. So think about if he gets a hole, nobody's gonna touch this man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's good for me to know, but do you have any questions for me? Or
No, I just, want to congratulate you on this, this journey.
yeah.
I'm in my second journey now of entrepreneurship. So, I
Yeah.
had my first journey of sports and then now entrepreneurship, and neither is easy. But you just got to be, again, going back to the consistency, right? Right. You
Yeah.
just got to be consistent, and you can be consistent and also enjoy the journey too. And
Hmm.
you always want to look at the end goal, and you should have end goal, but look at the small gains and the small wins, celebrate those, but also to know what the end goal is, and just never give up.
Yeah. Thank you. It was an honor to have you today on the podcast, and I think I think right here is a good time to wrap up a little bit. But,
Yeah,
thank you everybody for if you watching to the end. Thank you watching. This is Berkley Edwards and your host Hiro Chang. It was an honor to have you on this podcast, and it was fun talking to you and asking you all these questions.
yeah,
Well,
appreciate you. Thank
yep.
you.
But from here, it's
All right.
yeah.